Looking at Mondrian artwork just makes me happy. That's why I invited you a few weeks ago to play with Mondrian artwork too and make your own version. A big thank you to all the 50 people who sent in their artwork, all included in this video, just after this. Hi there, my name is Albert van der Zwart. Welcome to Imperfect Paintings, where it's all about improving your painting skills by looking at art, yourself and the world around you. Piet Mondrian is a Dutch artist who lived from 1872 until 1944 and is known for artworks like these. He's also known as one of the members of the style art movement. The movement came up with a set of rigid rules for their artwork. Horizontal and vertical straight lines, squares and rectangles, a strong asymmetricity and primary colors, red, blue and yellow and black and white. How hard can it be? Or perhaps, what's the catch? Here you see a number of submissions that resemble the artwork of Piet Mondrian. Do notice, all artwork is different. All are marvelous by definition, because they are made by other enthusiastic painters like yourself. They all watch the same video invite, link up here. Just try to follow along on this artistic journey and open yourself to their creative ideas in reaction to looking at Mondrian artwork. Back to Mondrian for a second. He made a lot of these diamond-shaped paintings. In my opinion, he used these shaped canvases to smuggle vertical lines in his artwork. So when you make your own artwork based on Piet Mondrian, do think of this option. That's why I recommend to look at more paintings of an artist. Perhaps you know this painting by Mondrian. On the internet I also find these confusing pictures. Recently I visited the original in the Art Museum in The Hague, the Netherlands, and I noticed something completely unexpected. It turns out to be a three-dimensional artwork consisting of three slightly different sized canvases mounted on top of each other. Also interesting is that the lines stop at the border of the top canvas. I incorrectly expected something like these ribbons going around the edges. In my video invite I also suggested you to play with all these rules, and a diagonal or other type of line can be an interesting additional element, like Brad used. Dave did some experiments and even used pencils for an Agnes Martin-like background. Diane used Mondrian-like asymmetry, followed by symmetry and adding a diagonal element. Gordon made this one and created also a wavy one. Vilna created this beautiful complex African sunset. Jeffrey's use of parallel lines and diagonals created a nice balance. Peter glued wooden rods to a canvas and painted a Paul Klee-like walking line combined with colored planes. This one's my favorite Mondrian painting. He made it in 1930. Later on in this video I will reveal some details I discovered. The painting is part of the collection of the Kunsthaus in Zurich, Switzerland. A slightly different version from 1929 is in Belgrade, Serbia, and a third version from 1930 is part of a private collection in London. In my invitation to paint like Mondrian, I showed you what I did with my painted version. And by messing it up, you get different parts to play with. Do notice I cut longer and shorter lines. I also could have cut them differently. But let's go back to the photograph of the original. The most important color in this painting is white, because there are 4 white squares, the biggest number, so they must be the most important. Majority rules, right? Or you can look for the biggest colored square. Is this red one dominant? Or are all the white squares, together with the blue and the yellow ones, the counterbalance for the big red? Is the composition in balance in your opinion? This is why Mondrian's artwork makes me smile. It constantly raises new questions for me to think about. Let me show you a different way to play. I found this picture frame at a thrift shop and dismantle it, paint it white and add color, so now I have this version of my favorite painting again. Not perfect, but good enough to play with, and perhaps it can bring new ideas. During the process I came to this moment. I take a piece of paper, create a passepartout and look at this. In my opinion, this shows how strong Mondrian's artwork is. Just by seeing black lines and primary colors, you almost instantly associate it with Mondrian's artwork. Clara used her computer to play with Mondrian's ideas. It brings me to documenting your process. Take pictures while you paint. She also sent me other ideas, like these Sudoku-like versions. Colin did experiments with black or white lines, and also a black or white background. And Eveline noticed that she could make different combinations for her two paintings. Dominique even made a portrait of Mondrian and several paintings on one sheet, dividing them later on by adding lines. James painted colors in boxes and also made one where colors and lines are separate entities. He also painted lines on a sheet, cut it to different shapes and made a Mondrian of each piece. Again, back to my favorite painting. I paint my version and now let's take away the lines. You end up with this. It looks pale without the black lines, don't you think? So this should look better. Or is the balance in the painting now gone? And does the thickness and the volume of the lines also have an influence? What is the moment that the line becomes a square itself? And how do you look at these black lines? Do they go from border to border? Or can you also see them as containing all these colored areas? But when you do this square has no lines around it. So how should you look at these lines? Collage is a great way to do experiments like these. How about taking only the lines of this painting? Also interesting. Who needs color? And she started playing with these squares and finished like this. Later she painted this version over it. Franka likes to experiment, but found out that it can also be rewarding to paint a perfect red square. Ian did experiment with lines and later tried to come closer to Mondrian. Jeanette created a combination of Mondrian's squares and trees paintings. Russ tried a Mondrian, but later enjoyed his squares collage-based painting more. And Bridget added texture in her paintings. Jonas wanted to get rid of the strict rules. His second one was a bit more subtle. I also found this one. You can use it like this. But when you want to create a Mondrian-like version, you have to figure out a plan. What I heard from several of you is that when you have a grid-like structure, if you start with it, whatever color you put in the first box, all things you do after it are a reaction on this first color. So when I put it here, now what? The same for starting here. This puzzle is one of the fun or challenging aspects of making a Mondrian inspired artwork. You can create endless amounts of versions, and while doing you can learn a lot too. When looking for inspiration, Mitch just looked outside and created her version. Stans created a new background for her old-fashioned stove and used the leftover paint to create a background for her Mondrian version. Next project was a painting based on her shelves. Tracy has weekly Zoom meetings with her family. She suggested my video as a project. Here's a collage of all their artwork. I especially love this one, made with folded cloth. And here you see Tracy's inspiration and her process. She also made this one. Interesting to see the difference between a black or a white sheet to work on. Dinkar took a different approach, using circles. He also made this one, just to play with the idea of space. In my opinion, it raises questions about filling your sheet or canvas. Or not. Interesting. Ray took the city map to create a number of designs. And came to this final one. I promised to show you some interesting details of this painting. At first I thought the red part was a square, but it turned out to be a rectangle. And this black line is wider than the others. And we go back to the 3 versions I showed you earlier, you can see the second and the third one don't have this detail. A third thing I found out is that the line here doesn't reach the edge of the canvas. The colors continue, so I guess he painted the black lines at the end. Little details like these make his artwork worth looking at, preferably original in a museum. As the last surprise, I like to show you Vivian's artwork. She bought new shoes and turned them into artwork. Unfortunately, a rainy day spoiled her fun, and using a different type of paint, she created these galaxy ones. Again, I would like to thank all who participated in this project to create our joint collection of Mondrian inspired artworks. Next week I will upload a new invitation to paint. Perhaps you would like to join. In case you like to see the result of my previous invitation to paint, click on the link and I will see you over there in the next video.